Whenever you're about to start drawing, something I've noticed a lot of people just not doing in my class. Sharpen your pencils. Please, get a good sharpener. This is a nice one I picked up on my recent trip to New York. I'll put the brand up. It's been one of the best ones I've used so far. So, one of the more basic aspects of the dynamic drawing course is to spend one class talking about our grip and the way we hold our tools. I'm pretty impressed, actually, with the three classes I've taught so far, three semesters I've taught so far, that most people have pretty good grip. Folks know how to draw pretty well, but it always usually there's one or two of these that people haven't tried before, and I want to encourage people to try them during our course and in general in your sketching. So everyone, you don't really think about grip, you just hold pencils. We're all used to learning something like what's called the tripod. It's a standard writing grip, and you can see that you just hold the pencil, hopefully not too tightly, between three fingers like that. And people usually hold it fairly close to, like here on the sharpener, very close to the tip. It's standard writing tripod, and it's very efficient for the small tight forms that you want to make when you write. But when you're sketching, one of the biggest problems people often have is knowing how to loosen up. And the first thing you can do is increase your natural range from a resting position simply by holding the pencil further back. So I've made a couple of different examples of grips that I use. I playfully call this the artist tripod. So it's a tripod basically just about an inch further back, and then the extended tripod. It's really good for initial composition. I'm copying a sketch that's off page right now. Lets me work out forms without being too tight when you're initially getting any sense of movement. You work things smaller, it's pretty easy to get tighter when you want to. That's good, so come in tighter to do details, then back up to do engrossed forms. So some of these forms, the way I'm gesturing in the hands, these are short forms, like abbreviations of anatomy of the hand. After having drawn many hands, practicing drawing hands and drawing many hands in comic book pages and illustrations and etc. I've gotten to the point now where I definitely have like a memory, a vocabulary of the anatomical shapes in my head, and I can kind of break it down to really simple. I guess what I'm trying to say is it becomes a language. This comes from practice. With enough practice and repetition, the familiarity with all these forms increases, and it takes a while. I think it's pretty comparable to the quality of the work that you'll see from people. The amount of hours they spend just practicing. So, tripods. Standard range tripod, extended tripod, artist tripod. Two other techniques that I use really frequently are picked up from doing, I think they were taught to me by Mr. Tavares in Life Art. So it's overhand. This is the same as the extended tripod in terms of opening up, but we're now actually getting into even easier to bigger forms, because what you're doing actually is you're not going to use your fingers anymore. You're not looking for fine control, you're looking for large control. So you've got your wrist and the collective hand for changing subtlety of the tip, and your elbow and your shoulder is what you're drawing with. You draw with your arm. And, you know, again, in doing larger forms, and you want to do the quick roughing in. So, in a light session, this is why we use this, because we can quickly go in and just capture the gesture of a pose quickly. Okay? It's nice and loose, and you want that quick speed kind of scribbling technique. In terms of, I always say in class, all the energy you're going to see in the art, to a certain degree, comes from the artist. That doesn't necessarily mean you want to attack the page. Some people do that, that's their style, but definitely the way you move becomes what informs the expression in your line. So if you move with tighter motions, you get tighter work. My goal in art was always to have as wide a range as I could, so I've practiced and preach a very broad range of techniques to give yourself the widest amount of range. So overhand, really good, and you can even get into a fair bit of detail, but it's a good fast gesture working way. I also use a lot for doing the shadows, spotting the shadows. Like this. I'm using the broad side of the pencil, and I'm just quickly blocking in where the shadows fall. So, and the last I'm going to suggest is the underhand. Now, this is another basically cousin to the overhand. It's the same, actually the same grip. You're just rotating your wrist. You're going that way. You get a particular kind of line. Notice where the width is the height of the lines. You get, and that changes relative to where you're working from. So you think about the orientation of your elbow for the expression of the line. Good for quick, loopy, nice, big, loose, relaxed forms. Doing all this, you want to think about how you're sitting, your posture. Make sure that you're not resting all of your weight in the page, because that limits, or at least it changes the expression of the lines you'll make. And, you know, I end up doing this a lot with my arms on the table, but I try to make sure that I'm not pressing so hard my elbow. Especially at this point in time, at 40, it ends up hurting the shoulder. So, also, thinking about keeping your hand, you don't need to put extra force into holding the pencil. See a lot of this, right? Really tight. It's wasted energy. All the energy you're putting into pressure onto the wood of the pencil is being lost to fine motor control. That's fine motor control you will not have. So it's better to keep it comfortable. You don't want to be so loose that it just goes flying. But you do want to not be putting pressure. When I was younger, I would often let go after long hours of drawing, and I'd put marks, like dents, temporarily in my finger. You know, a little color placement is fine. I don't freak out, but you end up also doing more damage to the joints. And any tension or extra force that's unnecessary you're putting into your work, essentially going to go into either the paper or your body, or both. So this is why I encourage this very kind of loose expressive way of drawing. And it's particularly handy when, say, for example, you want to he's moving this way, so his pants are going to swing out the opposite way. Drapery and physics. You want to study both of those. Particularly handy to apply when we go to Cat's Corner and watch the swing dance, dance students. So, think about your grip. It's important. Even if you've got a pretty good one, you can always get better. It's your technique, it's your tool use, and it changes. I mean, this is pencil. There's a whole different ball game when you start doing things like using pens and brushes.